cannot speak English, when a French cannot speak English, Africans respect him. When a Spanish cannot speak English, Africans respect him. When a Chinese cannot speak English, Africans respect him. When a Portuguese cannot speak English, Africans respect him. But guess what? When an African cannot speak English, Africans disrespect him. When an African cannot speak English, Africans term him or she a drunk, an illiterate, dumb. When an African cannot speak English, he or she is considered as an idiot, as a fool. Who did this to Africa?
When they move from Europe to Africa, they call it discovery, voyageur. But when we move from Africa to Europe, they call us illegal immigrants. A group of Africans in Europe, they call it refugees. A group of Europeans in Africa, they call it tourists. A group of Africans in a bush, they call it poachers. With a group of Europeans in a bush, they call it hunters. Black people working in a foreign country, they call it foreigners. White people working in foreign countries, they call them expatriates. This world have failed Africans, or have Africans failed ourselves? Food for thought. Do you know that the utmost stupidity normalized by Africans is
when a French cannot speak English, Africans respect him. When a Spanish cannot speak English, Africans respect him. When a Chinese cannot speak English, Africans respect him. When a Portuguese cannot speak English, Africans respect him. But guess what? When an African cannot speak English, Africans disrespect him. When an African cannot speak English, Africans term him or she a drunk, an illiterate, dumb. When an African cannot speak English, he or she is considered as an idiot, as a fool. Who did this to Africa? That's the level or extent of damage we have suffered as a people. We use English as a yardstick to measure intelligence of our own people, even our own children. Who did this to Africa? In our schools, our children are meant to believe they are stupid just because they cannot speak a language which is alien to their ancestral roots. Who did this to Africa? Dear Africans, put an end to this mental slavery. Teach your children how to speak their mother tongue. Allow the locals to speak their native languages freely without any stigma. Please do not help the oppressor to extend their oppression upon our people. Please, Africans, please. And if you come across this post, click and share. Let the message sink. God bless you. God bless Africans. I love you all.
All right. Hello. Welcome back. Hey, Nkrumah, how you doing? And how you guys doing? Everybody that are watching the live, I'm glad that we are back. We've been off for the past days now. But hopefully we were back yesterday and we are back now again. So this is what happened. My computer got hijacked. So they hijack it and they mess up everything. I mean, everything. Okay. So I took it to somewhere and they couldn't fix it. And then I took it to another place, they couldn't fix it. The third place, they couldn't fix it. I think it was the fourth place one Chinese guy, I mean, he's expert in computer. So I took it to him. He actually saw it and he said, my computer was hijacked. And then the whole software, he had to change everything in there. And then he had to reinstall another software, and which of course then, in fact, not just the speaker now, but the camera, and then it even damaged it. So I'm using a webcam now. So eventually I'm going to change this whole computer. Okay. But we have to keep the show going. I'm going to get a new computer. I'm trying to put funds together to actually buy a new computer. The fact that this was hijacked, I don't want to continue using this. In fact, I don't even trust the new software that was put in there. I don't even trust that pricing. But for now, I'm going to use this, for the time being. But I'm going to get a new computer to start everything over, then to keep using this computer. I'm not going to use this in the nearer future. So, but for now, to keep the show going, I will do the sacrifice. We're going to keep using this computer until I can get a new computer for the system. So that's what happened. So we're going to start a show at 1 p.m. So as usual, we continue with some video before the show starts. So at 1 p.m. we will be back. So keep watching.
Root cause of this conflict is, despite the fact that the root cause of this conflict is illegal occupation, we have heard a tirade of criticism of Palestinians from Western powers and unflinching support for the occupying power.
Welcome to Candid Africa.
We've had repeated calls, as Comrade Khalid has said, from UN member states for Israel to withdraw from the occupied territories to the 1967 borders. These decisions have been ignored, and instead, we have witnessed the burgeoning expansion of illegal settlements on Palestinian land, growing oppression of the Palestinian people, gross violation of their human rights, and the Gaza Strip being turned into an open-air prison, regularly denied electricity, water, and fuel. The current denial is not new. It's been happening time and time and time again. For 16 years, Gaza has been under siege, with its people struggling to survive the ongoing land, air, and sea blockade imposed by Israel, with Palestinians denied exit and entry into the Strip. I was horrified when one of our former leaders, Comrade, I don't know if I should call him Comrade anymore, Comrade Terale Kota, said that Israel is not an apartheid state. Well, the Palestinians are denied free exit and entry into their own land. They do not have free movement. We didn't have free movement under apartheid. Palestinian people use separate entrances when they go through the border. We had to use separate entrances under apartheid. Palestinian children do not have free access to education. It was the same for us. So I don't know what more Israel should do for Comrade Likota to recognize that it is an apartheid state. We've seen today increased Israeli aggression under the most far-right Israeli government we've ever seen. And we've seen the inaction by the Security Council, the very body whose mandate is to maintain international peace and security. Despite the fact that the root cause of this conflict is illegal occupation. We have heard a tirade of criticism of Palestinians from Western powers and unflinching support for the occupying power, despite the fact that I've been called all kinds of names because I refused to call Russia an occupying power of Ukraine. I've always objected to double standards. These type of double standards are the result of a global system which is skewed in favor of the powerful, to the detriment of those fighting for their rights and self-determination. I repeat, it is imperative that social movements raise their voices in solidarity with the Palestinian people, particularly given the notably biased media coverage of the current violence. It's unacceptable, 8 decades nearly after its creation, 5 nations still wield disproportionate decision-making power in the Security Council, and those 5 number among the most problematic countries in the world, the causes of many of the problems I referred to today. So the overhaul of the UN system should include enforcement of decisions taken by what we hope will be a democratized UN Security Council. We also believe
I know if my brothers and sisters in the Americas, I know if my brothers and sisters, black brothers and sisters in Europe were to come over here, they wouldn't be doing that shit. Like, I know that. I know that you wouldn't go over there and rob from people. I know you would go and build with people. And that's the kind of trade relationship that needs to be fostered between us.
Welcome to Candid Africa, truthful and unapologetic.
I was doing some research earlier, right? And I was looking at the total population of Texas, Georgia, and Louisiana. 45 million people. The GDP combined of Texas, Georgia, and Louisiana is 2.6 trillion. Africa, 1.3 billion people. The GDP of Africa is 2.7 trillion. So 3 states in North America have got as much GDP as the entire 54 countries in Africa combined. And that's because everybody who's going into Africa doing anything are stealing. They ain't putting anything back in there. I was Googling Congo, 100 million people. The GDP of Congo is 50 billion, right? People in Congo right now are on less than $500 annually each. So I've seen people there starving to death while 10.5 billion of cobalt is being taken out of the country every single year. There's 12 billion being taken out of just copper every single year. Then there's 2 billion of diamonds, gold, wolframite, tungsten. All of these things are being taken out and nothing's being put back. That's why there's 22 million people right now in Congo who are starving. There's 6 million people in Congo right now who are displaced. I'm there, I'm working there, and I'm seeing all this stuff happen. And I'm like, I know if my brothers and sisters in the Americas, I know if my brothers and sisters, black brothers and sisters in Europe were to come over here, they wouldn't be doing that shit. Like, I know that. I know that you wouldn't go over there and rob from people. I know you would go and build with people. And that's the kind of trade relationship that needs to be fostered between us. Because if we are not going to do for ourselves amongst ourselves, then we are going to die and we're going to be dancing while we're doing it. Right? I don't know if anybody's seen the shucking and jiving and all of this stuff that people be doing, but it's like, for whatever reason, we acting like it's all good at the same time as I've been through Atlanta and I've seen people starving on the street corners, right? And a lot of the people who are starving on the street corners don't even get to come to events like this.
There we have it. That has been our candid speech for today. Please feel free to give your opinions in the descriptions below.
Watch this video, and I'll be right back.
He published a book called Race, Tendencies, and Traits of the American Negro, in which he lays out all the numbers, and then he concludes that if we simply avoided allowing Black people to have any access to health care, that within 2 or 3 generations, the whole race would die out, and that would solve the race problem in America. When Teddy Roosevelt, 1912, proposed a national health care system, people said no because Black people will get it. When Franklin Roosevelt proposed a national healthcare system, it was the same thing. We don't want Black people to get it. When Truman tried it in 1947, same thing. Don't want Black people to get it. We have to figure out a way to keep Black people from using Medicare. And the way that they came up with was to have a 20% hole, a gap in Medicare, so that you had to pay 20% of your doctor's bill and your hospital bill, and that would discourage poor Black people from showing up at the hospitals. Nearly 100% of the reason why the United States is the only country in the world that doesn't define healthcare as a right is because of racism. He published a book called Race, Tendencies, and Traits of the American Negro.
How many times do I have to say this? Racism is a detriment to you white folks, poor white folks especially. Because of racism, you poor white folks can't even get good health care because they thought if they could deny health care to Black people that we would have been eradicated a long time ago. But hey, we still here and they have not changed the rules. How crazy is that? Even with Social Security, you have to pay 20% because of racism. We keep telling you, BIPOC keep telling you, Black people keep telling you, it is not us that makes your life suck. It is those racist politicians and their racist legislation that they think that's going to harm us, but harms you at the same time. And they don't care if it harms you. They don't give a shit. And then you continue to vote against your own interest. All because a bunch of rich white people told y'all to hate Black people because Black people are doing stuff to you as a whole. And we're not. Because we don't control shit. We don't control the healthcare system. We don't control Social Security. We don't control your wages. We don't control shit. But they continue to tell you that it's us. So you turn your focus on us and harass the shit out of us for no fucking reason. When we have no power to affect your life as a whole community. Pay attention.
All right. Good evening, folks. Welcome back. Once again, this is Frank Mauba. I am your host for the Revolutionary Repatriation Educational Lecture Series aspect of WCC that is being held every Sunday at 1 p.m. All right. So we don't control nothing, whether in Africa, whether in the diaspora, right? Whether out of Africa, we do not control anything. So, if we do not control anything and someone else control it, then how can the same people come back and says to us, we are our own problem? That is a very great question. If we don't control anything, because we don't control anything in Africa, all right? If we control Africa, if we control anything in Africa, all right? I don't believe, and we're going to get into this, I don't believe the United States at this time would have still dictated to African nation on what to do when it comes to leadership capability in Africa. If we control anything, look, I'm not even talking about in the diaspora, but I mean on the continent, the African continent. Why is it called the African continent? Why not we call it the European continent, where Africans are living in Africa? Why not we call it America continent? Why not we call it European continent? Because they still make decisions for us. Because they still have the audacity to tell us what to do, and we do it. So we do not control anything. And then these same people, you so-called African leaders, these same people will come and tell us African leaders are corrupt. How can African leaders be corrupt when the same people tells you what to do and you do it? Are they corrupt, or you are the one corrupt? Is it Washington, D.C. that is corrupt, or Europe that is corrupt, or the African leaders are corrupt? Because how can the African leaders be corrupt as Washington, D.C. say, as Europe say? How can the African leaders be corrupt? But Washington, D.C. is the one telling African leaders what to do. Washington, D.C. is the one telling African leaders where to go and where not to go, what to develop and what not to develop. Then how can they come and tell you so-called African leaders you are corrupt and you take it? Welcome back. I'm so glad that we are back. For the few weeks or the 1 week or the 1 day that we've been out, my skin was burning and itching to come back. But we have not yet started. We are just about to start. But before we start, I will be talking about today Israel and Gaza and Palestine. Because that is what exactly going on in Africa, in African nations. This is what exactly going on in Africa, in African nation. It was the same United States yesterday that told ECOWAS to go and kill African in Niger. It was the same Blinken, it was the same Joe Biden that told the so-called knucklehead Tinubu, the so-called knucklehead Nana Akufo-Addo, that we will give you ammunition and support to go and wage war on Niger. But they could not. They could not give ammunition or support to the Nigerian army to defeat Boko Haram. But rather, this so-called entity were giving the army ammunition to the Boko Haram. But by the time their interests are being threatening, then that's the time they want to talk about terrorism. That's the time they want to talk about, we are helping Africans to fight terrorism, to do this, to do that. You so-called African leaders, some of you, like Tinubu, Nana Akufo-Addo, and the many other African leaders that are still acting as a slave to Washington, D.C. How can even Nana Akufo-Addo come and sit with Blinken, secretary? You did not sit with your counterpart. You did not sit with your counterpart president or Joe Biden or any other. But you come and you sat with Blinken and asking Blinken what to do for Africa. Asking Blinken solution for Africa. Why are you president? Knucklehead. Why are you president in Africa? And you leave Africa, you come to America, sat with Blinken, asking Blinken what is the solution for Niger. The same people that want to see the blood of Nigerian, the same people that destroy Libya, did you question them? And today they are still stealing from Libya. Did you question them? The same people that are stolen from the Nigerian, their uranium, their diamond, name it, did you question them? But today, the Palestinians are fighting for the same freedom. That is why only few African leaders in Africa making statement. Because the same thing the Palestinians, the people in Gaza are fighting for is the same thing people in Niger are fighting for. People in Burkina Faso are fighting for. People in Mali are fighting for. But you African leaders sat down there and support Europe and America. But it is the same Europe and America that are supporting Asia to kill Palestinians, to kill the people in Gaza. That's how they came to destroy Africa. And you wanted to go kill Africans. If not for Africans that stood up It said, Ghana, if you try it, Nigeria, if you try it, this is what's going to happen. Aqua, if you try it, this is what's going to happen. Now you understand. They don't care if you Africans die. They don't care if you Africans kill one another. They don't care. Oh, yes? You want me to prove that? Let's get into it.
For the bloodshed that's going on. It is the international community, particularly Britain. The international community has given the greenest of green lights to the Israeli army to do what it wants. And that means the freedom to commit war crimes. You'll see Western values as they actually operate, raining down bombs on completely innocent Gazan civilians, whether they're supporters of Hamas, Fatah, whether they're civilians, they're going to die and are dying in their thousands. Where are Western values there? If there's blood on anyone's hands, it's on those who say
Israel has a right to defend itself.
Israel has the perfect right to defend itself.
By the way, this video is just for educational purpose, all right? As we connect the dots when it relates to the relationship between America and Africa, between Europe and Africa, is no different from the people in Gaza, is no different from the people in Palestine. It's no different. The same feeling they have for the people in Gaza and Palestine, that's the same feeling they got for Africa. You heard them saying Asia should defend its right. If Asia should defend its right, why did the United States have the audacity to say that Nigeria should not defend their right? If Asia should defend her right, why the United States and England or Europe have the audacity? Why didn't they say Mali have the right to defend itself? Why didn't they say Burkina Faso have the right to defend itself? Why they can say Africa have the right to self-determination? The devil is not coming from under the ground. The devil is not coming from in the bush. The devil is among us here, and we know who the devil are.
civilians, they're going to die and are dying in their thousands. Where are Western values there? If there's blood on anyone's hands, it's on those who say
Israel has a right to defend itself.
Israel has the perfect right to defend itself.
Israel has a right to defend itself.
Israel must have that, does have that right to defend herself.
Israel has an absolute right to defend itself.
Israel has a right to self-defense.
This is not the whole story. It's not the defense of Israel. It is the expansion of Israel, and it is the creation of an apartheid regime even more severe than the one that happened in South Africa. Israel says it's fighting an existential war, and it has compared what Hamas did to a Holocaust. Half my family died in the Holocaust. There's no comparison. From a Palestinian perspective, you have to realize that Israel was the lords, the masters of the land. They controlled all your movements. They controlled how much you ate. They controlled who you married. It's the one that decides when to attack. This is a country used to total control over 1/2 of the population, and it lost that control. And it lost that control wildly. I'm appalled by some of the things that happened. Desperation turned into savagery, and I will use that word about what happened at Kfar Aza, or the music festival that took place where unarmed festival goers were shot like ducks. These scenes are unknown to the current generation of Israelis, and the shock this has produced, the sudden loss of confidence in its star performer, which is its army and its intelligence services, cannot be underestimated. That shock has now turned to anger. That anger has now turned to an unholy desire to kill Gazans.
I think now is the time that we need to erase Gaza.
We gotta wipe them off the fucking map. I'm talking about every fucking platinum like a parking lot.
Kill Palestinians, all of them.
There's a kafar azar happening every night in Gaza. Women and children buried under rubble. There is absolutely apocalyptic scenes going on there. The Israeli Air Force deliberately targeting blocks, individual families, and wiping them out with precision weapons. And this is happening now to one family after another. I don't think Israel, and in particular the Israeli army, can give people lectures on brutality, particularly directed at children. It happens all the time in the so-called stable peace. There were 34 children killed so far this year by soldiers in the West Bank. So there is butchery and there's barbarity on both sides. The problem is what's taking place in Gaza, which is truly apocalyptic, is done on an industrial scale. And by the time this comes out, the death toll will mount and mount. Yoav Gallant, the Israeli defense minister, the man who said that Palestinians are human animals, said Israeli forces will not be held accountable for anything they do. So all the past rules have been torn up, and Israel is going for the maximum number of Gazan casualties. And that's what the international community is allowing Israel to do. They have given Netanyahu the green light and an unlimited time to mount a ground invasion of Gaza. Gazans have tried to break out of their open-air prison before. It happened on the day in which Donald Trump's son-in-law was signing the ceremony that transferred the official American embassy to Jerusalem. On that very, very day, you had Palestinians unarmed who were gunned down demonstrating right next to the fence. They didn't break out of the fence. They were simply being shot at, rather like ducks, with the most sophisticated weapons. When that demonstration happened, Gazans learned a lesson that the next breakout that they do would have to be armed.
Hamas is ISIS.
Hamas is very, very different from ISIS. And actually, the two were at war with each other, in which there were quite a few dead bodies. There's no analytical comparison between Hamas and ISIS. And the main difference between them is that although the Hamas is an Islamist organization, an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas is a resistance group dedicated to ending the occupation. And this still is a dispute and a conflict over land and not religion. Having said that, Hamas called its attack on southern Israel the Al-Aqsa flood for a reason. Al-Aqsa is being invaded and attacked all the time. Al-Aqsa isn't just their third holiest site for Islam. It's also a national symbol for Palestine. This sacred turf is actually being taken away piecemeal. And again, the West is letting them do this. This was the reason for Hamas saying enough is enough. But there were lots of other reasons as well. If you can imagine it, 16 years in an open air prison with the electricity controlled or rationed, food rationed, 60% unemployment, settler attacks on Palestinian villages protected by the army, which Israelis themselves describe as pogroms, the total impossibility of a political solution or even a national unity government. And that suited Israel absolutely fine. When they were demonstrating about democracy in Israel, no one was talking about the obvious elephant in the room, which was an apartheid regime for half of the population, the Palestinian population. Neither left nor right were bothered about it. And that too is an ingredient into what actually happened here, because the message that was being given by Israel to the Palestinians is, you don't matter. We can do it without you. We can communicate Palestine completely, and saying,
we'll build a new corridor of peace and prosperity that connects Asia through the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Israel, to Europe. This is an extraordinary change, a monumental change.
Reversing the logic of the last possibility of an agreement on a two-state solution, which is in 2002, which was called the Arab Peace Initiative. You've got Israel that's turning the screw all the time and encroaching. There are now 700,000 settlers. It's impossible to put Palestinian state, and everyone knows it. But a two-state solution is cynically the policy of all European governments and America. It's a policy that can't now possibly exist. And that is the situation that wings. There is a faction of Hamas that controls Gaza, and there is Mohammed al-Dif, the head of the Qassam Brigade, named after a Syrian preacher who turned to resistance under the British mandate. He was killed by the British in a forest outside Jenin. What the West and Israel permanently misunderstands about the nature of Palestinian resistance was that his name and example lived on. If Israel now succeeds in
All right, sorry for we cannot play the whole video because we have, we'll be running out of time. But again, so from the video, you saw what is going on in that part of the world, where America, Europe support Asia to create conflict in a part of the world, because those people in a part of the world, just like Africa, they don't know if there's something called freedom. They don't need it. All right, they are not human beings to determine their own freedom. Their freedom should be determined by Europe and America and Asia, so that Asia can occupy that land, right? It is the same way. I mean, you saw it at the end of the video where someone who resisted, okay, Western agenda, right? Someone who resisted American agenda, someone who resisted European agenda, they killed him, right? That is what exactly going on the African continent. All right, there have been numerous coups attempts against the Burkinabe government, Ibrahim Traoré, right? Just because he opposed colonial agenda. He opposed colonial mentality in Burkina Faso, because he wanted Burkinabes to have freedom and total control of their resources, their land, their life, their water body, everything. But America and Europe and France, they said there will be no peace for Burkina Faso. There will be no peace for Niger. There will be no peace for Guinea. There will be no peace for the people that live in a part of the Sahel region. And there will be no peace for Africa. If they will use some of the puppet African leaders to destroy Africa, to kill African, they will, because they need the land of Africa. They need the continent of Africa. As long as they can control that land, that continent, they will do everything. That is what exactly happening to the people in Gaza and to the people of Palestine. That's why the struggle is similar. Now you understand when you see some African government, especially South Africa, supporting the people of Gaza and Palestine against Israel, because they know what South Africa went through with the hands of Israel apartheid, supported, armed by the United States to support Israel to go against Africans. Today, henceforth, America, Europe, they are still supporting an apartheid government in a part of the region. So who should we pray for? I see some puppet Negro African pastors, they cannot even eat. They are so fasting and wanting, praying for Israel, because that's where their fake God came from. That's where their fake white Jesus came from. But you watch the death, the suffering of other people. If you pray for Israel, that means you pray against Africans, because what's happening in a part of the world is the same thing Africans are going through. So how can you pray for Israel and then not pray for the people of Palestine or Gaza, not pray for the people of Africans or the African continent? And you call yourself African pastors, African deacon, African deaconess, African bishop, African reverend, all the titles. Even Jesus Christ himself never had title. What was the title of Jesus Christ? Because Jesus Christ was not a pastor, he was not a bishop, he was not a deacon, he was not a Christian, he was not nothing. What was the title of Jesus? All of you so-called Negro black pastor, all the titles. What was the title of Jesus Christ? Tell me. He never had no title. But some of you not even eating, praying and fasting for Israel. But do you know the damages Israel is causing even in DRC Congo? Do you know what they are doing there? Do you know what they are doing in DRC Congo? Have you ever wanted faster for DRC Congo and pray against Israel? Let's continue here. The example of Israel, Palestine, Gaza is Africa. That's what the topic of the discussion is. The United States or Europe might end up being an outcast in Africa, in the land of Eden. They will end up being an outcast. And that we will have no regret. Let's continue here to the next page. Let's see a post from a Negro, a host Negro called Barack Obama. Let's see a post from a murderer that killed Africans, that killed Libyan, Obama. Let's see a post from him. What he said. If Obama actually came out with that post, that means Obama actually supports the killings of Nigerian, the killing of African. Well, you know what? He could not have done it to come out with a post. Maybe I doubt it. It might be there, but I did not see it. But if he did not, or he did not come out with it, it means he couldn't, because if he could have ever done a post like this, it would have been something different. But see the post Obama came up with. Now, what can Obama say? And the reason why he came out with this post, because he said he's dirty. He got a dirty heart and a dirty mind. Because that's how he went and destroyed Africa and destroyed Gaddafi. And today, because Obama killed Gaddafi, Obama have taken Africa back 50 to 100 years. Let's see Obama post. This is what Obama said. This is what he said. Barack Obama, that's his Twitter page. Barack Obama said, all Americans should be horrified. Oh man, Obama. All Americans should be horrified and outraged by the brazen terrorists' attack on Israel and the slaughter of innocent civilians. Obama, why didn't you post about all Africans should be outraged about the slaughtering of Gaddafi, the slaughtering of Libyan, the destruction of Libyan, the fake democracy you promised to the Libyan? Did you come out to give a post like that to say all Africans should be horrified and outraged by the brazen terrorist attack on Libya, on Africa, and the slaughter of innocent civilians, the slaughter of innocent Africans by you, Obama? Did you come out with posts like that? Have you ever been outraged when Africans are dying in their numbers, whether in Africa or out of Africa, whether in America or in Europe? Have you ever been outraged? Have you ever posted anything like this for Africans to be outraged? Did you ever comment when the masses, the entire Niger, said they do not want a government put in Niger by the United States, by Congress, by Europe, And the entire Niger said, we don't want Bazoo. Did you ever post and say, the people of Niger are right? The people of Niger have spoken. They do not want Bazoo, and Bazoo should go. America should give Niger a chance. Let them decide on a governmental process. Did you do it? You feel Negro or horse Negro, sorry. You horse Negro, did you do it? You slave, did you do it? But let's continue what he said here. We grieve. You and who grieve? You grieve because you are a slave. You are grieving for your slave master. That's how you grieve. When the Nigerians said they do not want an American government called Bazoo, you grieve for your slave master. When the Burkina Faso said we do not want American influence, you grieve for your slave master. When the Malians said we do not want Western interference, you grieve for your slave master. But you never grieve for Africans. You never grieve for the liberation of Africa. But you grieve when your slave master are losing ground on the African continent. You slave. We grieve. No, you alone with your colonial master imperialists grieve. We grieve for those who died. But you did not grieve for the masses of Africans that die in DRC Congo every day. You do not grieve. You call yourself a black man. You call yourself an African. But you do not grieve for once when Africans are dying in their numbers. We grieve for those who died. Pray for the safe return of those who have been held hostage and stand scrawling alongside all other. Israel as it dismantled. Did you see Obama speaking like this? Does this guy, this man have human heart? Is this man a human being? Israel, as it dismantled, he said, Obama said, they are praying for Israel to kill Palestinians, to kill the people of Gaza, to dismantle Gaza, to dismantle Palestine. Obama said they are praying for bloodshed. That's what he said. Israel, he said, and still scrolling. As we pray for the safe return of those who have been held hostage and still scrolling alongside our ally, Israel as it dismantled Hamas. Israel as it dismantled Hamas. Oh, this is why you so-called African leaders, you don't understand what is going on. And maybe some of you understand, but you just want to be a puppet. Now you understand the terrorist activities going on the African continent. Now, when African leaders like Tuareg, the Malian government, the Guinean government, the Nigerian government, when they stand against Western lies to say they are there to fight for Africans, when they stand against their lies, you grieve for your master. As we support Israel, Obama still speaking, as we support Israel right to defend itself against terror, how can you support Israel when decades, century, Israel is the one that have been bombing Palestine or the Palestinian or Gaza? Israel is the one that have been bombing the pressing. No peace, no democracy, nothing. Who is supposed to give support to who? When Israel is the one that have the edge over the people for a century. You bully the people until the people item one day, they react one day, and then you placard that over the media. But century you have killed the people, and you don't placard on the media. We must keep striving for a just and lasting peace for Israel. Oh, Obama. Then what is that lasting peace and support for Niger? What is that support and lasting peace for Mali, for Burkina Faso, for Chad, for Sudan, for DRC Congo, and the African continent at large? What is that support and lasting peace for the people of Haiti? You see how hypocrite you are. You are not part of us. Just because you are being black, that doesn't mean you are part of us. But this is Obama. But now, let's see what have been done by people like Obama action and the people that said Israel had the right to defend its cause. Because Obama said they will pray and cease to it that Israel dismantle, Israel bring down Gaza and the Palestinian, dismantle them to ground level. Let's see some of the results. Hi, folks. This is very graphic, right? So viewer discussion about, and this is just for an educational purpose. Again, because mainstream media may not bring this. So at some point, I'm going to mute the video. All right. So as you can see right here, so this is a kind of dismantle Obama was talking about. This is a kind of dismantle the United States Congress, Washington, D.C. was talking about. What they said Israel had the right to defend itself. As you can see right here, you see, these are human beings. These are children. Right here, these are children. You see here? On the rubble. These are human beings. These are children. They are all dead. So this is Obama action. Do you think these people care about Africans? It's just a question. Do you think they care, African leaders, if you are killing one another? Do you think they care, African leaders? Nana Akufo-Addo, this question is for you guys. Because you guys control ECOWAS. Tinubu, this question is for you. Because you guys control ECOWAS. The Ivorian president, the Benin president, Macky Sall, Senegal, this question is for you people. Do you think the West care when you Africans are killing one another? Look here, this is a bombing. This is Israel bombing innocent people. Look here, right? Look here, these are children. They are dead. So do you think the West care when you African leaders kill each other? When you African leaders kill your own people, you think they care? They never care, by the way, because it is the same Western organization that are supporting terrorist activities on the African continent. Do you think they care if America support Africans and to carry on coup d'etat? This is what they said. They support Africans to carry on special military operation by removing African leaders. So if they can do that, why don't you think they are the one training terrorists? Because the purpose for which they will train terrorists is because any African leader who do not agree to their agenda, they will make sure that country be threatened with terrorists. They will make sure that country have terrorists to give the regime or that government a hell. And then America or Europe will be in our country saying that, oh, they are there to fight terrorists. But they are the ones supporting the terrorists. If they can train people to be removing government, because if you can train people to remove government, it's terrorist activities. It's terrorist act. Because the reason why you want to remove that government is because that government is not in support of an ill foreign policy against the interests of that country. So if you can do that, that means you are the one supporting terrorists. Facts. No doubt about that. So don't get it twisted, Africans. Don't get it twisted. If you can't put African interest and African problem first, but you always want to run to your colonial master, like Nana Akufo-Addo sitting down with Blinken, a whole president came and sat down with a common secretary and asking a common secretary, non-entity, about solution for Africa, instead of you calling African leaders to group together to discard the interests of Africa, but you ran to at least make you a president, and you ran to at least make a secretary and asking him for solution for African continent. That's what disgrace Nana Akufo-Addo with your leadership. So don't get it twisted. This is what Obama won. This is what he wanted. This is what he said. Asia should dismantle the people. Now you see here, right? Okay, we take that out. All right. But again, this is what exactly America means when they say they should wage war on Niger. This is what exactly Europe means when they say they should wage war on Niger. And you so-called African leaders in ECOWAS sat down there and agreed to it. And today, you are still pushing that agenda. And today, America is still pushing that agenda. Europe is still pushing that agenda. So did you see that? You think once a colonizer is a colonizer, that mindset, for them to create that mind to colonize you, to enslave you, to ill-treat you the way they did, you think they will change from that mindset? It's in their mind that what they did to you, you might end up doing it to them. So they will never change. They will never change. First of all, you did them nothing before. You welcomed them and they took advantage of you. Do you think, even with you welcoming them still, do you think that mindset have changed? No. They have just upgraded that mindset so that you will think that they are there for peace or friendship, but they are not there for friendship. This is not hate. This is a revolutionary repatriation educational lecture series where we will speak the truth for our people to wake up. These people are not there for friendship. They were never there for friendship. They will never be there for friendship. If it was friendship, there was no reason for them to kill Gaddafi. There was no reason, absolutely no reason. To the extent Obama himself said it, The worst mistake he ever did was to kill Gaddafi. Because the narrative was false. And that's how they do it. After they have succeeded, then they come out to laugh at Africans and say, oh, we did it. All we said was false. But well, just because of our interest, we did it. What can you do? Nothing. And that's how they do it. But let's continue. When we get to Africa here, there's a reason why I'm connecting this dot for you to understand. And this is for African leaders. This is for the so-called Africans advocates who will always run to Europe and America, say they are going for global stage. This is not only for African leaders. It's for all African authorities. It's for all African representatives who will always run to Western forums to represent Africa, thinking that we live in a global village. We do not live in a global village. If we live in a global village, peace would have been in Palestine, peace would have been in Gaza, peace would have been in Haiti, peace would have been in DRC Congo, in Niger, in Mali, in Guinea. Peace would have been there. We do not live in a global war. We do not live it does not exist. And it will never exist with the attitude of the imperialists, of the colonizer. What exists is interest and partnership of interest. What exists is for someone to become a puppet, is for someone to become a lesser human being, and while someone is superior and someone is inferior. That's what exists. And if you still want to be inferior, then so be it. But there is nothing like global village, global war. It does not exist, and I will tell you, it will never exist. Let's continue. Let's continue. We're connecting the dot. So what I'm about to show you here, okay, is just some justification of what Asia is doing in a part of the world, and with the support of America and Europe, that they themselves have to face the RCC. All right? They themselves, they are being identified as criminal, as violator, as invader. But again, who have the right to judge them? But they have the right to judge other people, right? If Putin is an invader, so be it to the US, Europe, and Asia.
At the moment, and the response of various Western powers, including our own government. So one of the things that we will be saying very loudly is that we think Ursula von der Leyen should resign. She has publicly given unconditional support to the state of Israel at exactly the same time that it has publicly declared its intention to commit war crimes. The ethnic cleansing of 1 million Palestinians is, under international law, a war crime. To transfer populations when you are occupying a people is a war crime. And in fact, what Israel is perpetrating now.
Sorry, folks. So this is how the West is occupying the African land, the African continent, the African resources, the African mind. So it is a crime. And when Africans rise up, they go against that African, they kill that African. It is a crime to maintain landmass resources that is not yours. It is 1,000 miles away from America, 1,000 miles away from Europe. It is a crime. And when the people of that region, of that land, want to fight for their resources, you create chaos among them. In no time, you announce terrorist activities. Oh, we have seen it in South Africa. When American interest has been threatened in South Africa, America will be the first to come on national media to say South Africa is at risk of terrorism. South Africa is a no-go zone. They are the first to see the threat. But the security in our region, in South Africa or in our country, cannot see it. Do not see it. Only the US can see it. Only the imperialists can see it. What does that tell us? What does that say?
Is a second Nakba. In 1948, 750,000 people, Palestinians, were expelled using terrorism and violence by Zionist militia. In just a few days, Israel has used the same tactics of terror and indiscriminate killing to ethnically cleanse 1 million Palestinians. So in front of the eyes of the world, Israel blatantly says we're going to commit war crimes, commits those war crimes, and Ursula von der Leyen gives them unconditional and uncritical support. So we believe she should resign, and resign immediately, and that our government should be associated with making that call. We also think that the Irish government should call immediately for Israel's referral to the International Criminal Court for war crimes. It is something that I think the public should know, that Israel is one of the countries that refuses the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court. So it claims that it's willing to operate within the confines of international law, but actually refuses the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court, because essentially Israel believes it can kill Palestinians with impunity and should in no way by anybody be held accountable for those things. But the International Criminal Court has stated that they believe they have the jurisdiction to investigate war crimes in Palestine, and we believe the Irish government should now call for that to happen and that the resources are put into it. And I would remind people that there was instantaneous calls from our government and European leaders to refer Vladimir Putin to the International Criminal Court for war crimes, quite rightly. So we would expect that same standards will be applied to the state terrorism and war crimes that Israel is committing in front of the eyes of the world. We would also be calling for the government to immediately expel the Israeli ambassador as part of imposing sanctions on Israel for the absolutely barbaric assault on the people of Gaza, for the war crimes, for the ethnic cleansing, and to recognize that the atrocities that Israel is committing are not some sort of act of self-defense over what Hamas did a week ago, but actually are part of an ongoing pattern of murderous assaults, the siege of Gaza, ethnic cleansing, apartheid policies, the seizure of Palestinian land, the annexation of Palestinian territory. Israel has to be held accountable, and we believe that the Irish government should be imposing sanctions itself, breaking off diplomatic and other relations with Israel, and calling on the European Union to do exactly the same thing. Finally, I just want to say that I am receiving multiple calls from Palestinians who are either here living in...
Okay, because of time, we cannot play the whole video. We got to go. So, Again, like I said, I'm trying to connect a dot. We're going to get to Africa, all right? But the issue here is, right? The struggle of those people is no different from Africa when it comes to the West, all right? Now you understand who support the activities in Africa. The West support the activities in Gaza, in Palestine, right? Gave ammunition, finances to kill and destroy that part of the world because their interests are being threatened. Their interests are not being supported. That's the same way in Africa. If their interests are being threatened, their interests are not supported, they don't care for the life of Africans. They don't care whether you die in your numbers. They will not care. They never care, and they will not care. Nobody, I will say this, nobody outside of Africa, especially the colonizer, the imperialists, love Africa other than Africans. Nobody will save, will free Africans other than Africans. Nobody will get African self-determination other than Africans. Nobody will put Africa to where Africa needs to be other than Africans. Nobody will speak positively of Africans other than Africans. Let's continue. We are saying that when America and France and Europe interests were threatening in the Sahel region, we saw what happened. We saw what been going on. We saw the kind of level of threat. And we're going to get into that as we end this discussion in Africa. Let's continue.
For 10 days, you have been watching Israel assaulting over 2 million Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip, people being killed, injured, displaced, terrorized. Israel has not spared a single Palestinian family in Gaza. No one should forget that these are human lives, that Palestinian lives matter too, and no one should entertain the illusion that killing more Palestinians will ever make Israelis more secure. Israel has besieged the Gaza Strip for 17 years, has launched repeated aggressions against our people there. Did it make it more secure? How can it convince anyone that killing more Palestinians, more innocent Palestinians, children, women, men, old and young, is the answer? I came to this council many times telling you, the Palestinian people no longer believe help is on the way. Prove them wrong. Restore hope in collective action. You now have important decisions to make. Decisions that determine how the next days will look like for the Palestinian people, for the region, and the entire world. We implore you, Be guided by the rule of international law, with no exception or exceptionalism allowed. Don't send the signal that the Palestinian lives don't matter. Don't dare say Israel is not responsible for the bombs it is dropping over their heads. Don't justify the killings. Don't blame the victim. And I repeat, don't do that.
Okay, we'll take the discussion from there, right? Don't blame the victim. Does that sound familiar? Don't blame the victim. Exactly. The West, the imperialists, the neo-colonial or the colonialists. That's what they do. They blame the victim. Oh, you are the cause of your problem. You are the cause of your suffering. You are the cause of your demise. You are the cause of your poverty. You are the cause of you being dying. You are the cause terrorists is in your place. You are the cause that we are bumping you. Blame the victim. That's the West. That's what they do so that you cannot come after them. And there is no internationalism here. There's no international law here. There's no international right or human right here. Who control the international law? Who control the international human right or whatsoever? Who control it? Who control the UN? What have UN ever done against the so-called superpower? What have UN done against the people they call so-called terror? Those are the people. UN exercise her right. UN exercise her power over them because those nations they call terror do not have the power. Because UN is just a name, but the people that control the UN are the people who have the problem. And the people that control the UN are the same people we call a superpower. Some of the superpower. Basically, the United States control the UN, period. So that is why the United States have been unable, or UN have been unable, to take charges against Asia, US, Europe. But right, UN is supposed to take charges against France. Because there are numerous evidence of France's behavior in Africa, in the Sahel region. Those people in that region have complained to the UN. What did the UN do? Because the people, the person that controls the UN is an ally to France. Because UN is a racist organization. UN is a terrorist organization. Because UN herself is a looter, looting the African resources and looting the resources in Haiti. What do you expect? It's just a name. But the people that operate the UN are operating on the mandate of certain people in a superpower. What do you expect? UN is just a name. It's just letters. Letters cannot function without the influence of men. Let's continue here. But these will be the same people that will come to you and tell you, you Africans, the person that is trying to help you is bad. The person that is trying to help you, do not trust that person, right?
Europe will migrate to Africa. Our foreign policy is based on defending our national interests and international law. Russia is open to dialogue and cooperation with other countries, but we demand mutual respect. Russia is not looking for enemies, but neither can it ignore threats to its security. Weakness is the pretext used by the spineless to justify their impotence. International cooperation is essential to solving complex global problems. Russian history is a source of pride and inspiration for us all. What do you think of Vladimir Putin? Tell us in the comments and subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. Vladimir Putin said, "I don't even need to wage war on France. All we need to do is liberate French-speaking Black Africa, and it will collapse on its own like rotten fruit. Africa is 1,000 times richer than Europe in terms of subsoil, but 1,000 times poorer in terms of development. All it would take is for African presidents to create their own currency. I give you my word, Europe will migrate to Africa. Our foreign policy is based on defending our national interests and international law. Russia is open to dialogue and cooperation with other countries."
Okay, Putin, we heard you, but some African leaders are puppets to their colonial master because they still believe in the Moravia group. So they will not come out with that notion, okay, or that vision of creating their own currency. They will not. They prefer to use the colonial currency, their master currency. All right. Now, what Putin just said in our era, as it was quoted by this person, right? Africa have all the resources, but since when have the West ever come out on their social media or on their media channel, on their platform, okay, on their CNN, BBC, to talk about the resources of Africa that is being looted by the West, by America, by Europe? Since when? But only on their, how they call it, platform, they will come out to say how poor in Africa is. But they don't tell the world the reason why Africa is poor is because of America and Europe, because they are exploiting those nations. They are exploiting our continent. We just saw it when Niger decided to kick out France, to kick out Western influence. One of the most richest nations in the world is the second poorest country in the world. But CNN, ABC, NBC have come out to say this nation is poor to the extent the people, a whole household live on $1 per day. But they did not come on a channel to say America, the reason why they live on $1 per day, a whole family live on $1 per day, is because America and Europe, they are exploiting our family, they are exploiting our nation. That's why people live on $1 a day. Although one of the most richest nations in the world, they don't say that, but all they come and say the country is poor, the leaders are corrupt. Meanwhile, they corrupted or they corrupt those leaders because they're threatening the life of those leaders. Any leader on the African continent who is not corrupt, your life will be threatened by the colonialists, by the imperialists, by the West. Your life will be threatened if you are not corrupt. If you are not listening to the impulses of the West, you will become an outcast in the world. The West will call you a dictator. But when you are wanting and dining with them, even if you hate your people, even if you are a dictator to your people, they will say you run a democratic government. Even if you are a dictator, they will say you run a democratic government. You can even go against the constitution of that land, either to run for 2 terms or 1 term or 4 years, whatsoever the situation might be, or 8 years and leave. As long you support the interests of Europe and America, you can go for 25, 30 years, 40 years. They will say you are a democratic nation. That's the kind of people we should listen to. And that's how, on their CNN and BBC, that's how they come to defend democracy. Their definition of democracy does not base on the understanding, the influence, the situation, the circumstances of the people. Their definition of democracy is based on the leadership mentality to become a puppet to the West, to America, to Washington, D.C., to Europe. Their definition of democracy is based on the attitude of that leader to exploit the resources strictly to Europe and America. That's a definition of democracy. Have we not learned yet? Have we not come to our senses? Let's continue. We are getting to Africa a little bit. We're almost there. Now, I'm going to show you a video, like I said. The connection has already been done, right? Now, this is how exactly Washington, D.C. sat down. Okay? This is how exactly Congress sat in Washington, D.C., in the U.S., okay, to make decisions on how they should plunder Africa, on how they should kill African leaders, on how they should destroy Africa. This is how they sat in Washington, D.C. to discuss the African continent. Not in our interest, not in your interest, but this is how they do it. Watch me here. I didn't say it. A representative that worked in Congress said it. I'm just reacting to what she said or what they say and bring the message to our people. There's nothing we're saying here. So I don't care. You're going to hack this computer. I'm going to get a new computer. Okay? I'm going to leave this alone. It's right here.
Saddened by the fact that 535 members of Congress. I'm also saddened by the fact that 535 members of Congress could come together in one breath, fully condemn the horrors of what Israelis experienced. And that there is now only maybe few handful of them who could get to the point of saying, we condemn the slaughter of Palestinian children, of mothers, of fathers, of grandmothers, of grandfathers. Where is your humanity? How do you look at one atrocity and say this is wrong? But you watch as bodies pile up, as neighborhoods are leveled. Israel has dropped more bombs in the last 10 days than we dropped in a whole year in Afghanistan. Where is your humanity? Where is your outrage? Where is your care for people? How is it that we have a president who is talking about releasing hostages, who is talking about getting American citizens out of Israel, but could not get himself to say, I want to save and work to save the hundreds, thousands of Americans is stuck in Gaza? What is wrong with you? How is this possible? I want to say how insane and painful and scary it is to work and serve in a space where we have a member in our caucus say all Muslims are responsible for this, and not a single condemnation comes from our caucus leadership or any member of Congress. How is it that we are serving in a body where there are members who condemn us for asking for peace, for ceasefire? But I am never going to stop saying Palestinians deserve freedom, that we need to free Palestine. And I am never going to stop saying that there is no way that we should allow in sending more bombardments to kill Palestinians. Thank you.
All right, we are getting there. So we're going to play one more video, and then the dot will finally be connected to Africa, right? But you hear what she said. And everything she said is true, right? They said in Washington, D.C., right? 35 members of Congress agreed to destroy. You heard Obama. Obama said Israel is going to dismantle. They should pray for Israel. They should collaborate well with Israel to dismantle that region. That's how they sit in Congress. You heard 35 members agreed to wage war, to kill innocent people, and you saw the video. That's how they do it. Africa Power, they don't care for this. They don't care. They never care. They will not care. And we have some of our leaders like this. They're so dumb and stupid and mumu brain mud in their brain. They have not yet gotten it. And especially leaders that come from some of those powerful nations in Africa, where they are leaders, where those nation leaders were revolutionary, were pan-Africanists. We know a country called Kenya, when we know Jomo Kenyatta, when we know the story of Jomo Kenyatta. We know a country called Ghana, when we know the story of Nkrumah. We know a country called Guinea-Bissau, when we know the story of Amilcar Cabral, and the list can go on. How can today leader in a part of Africa forget the history, the people that came after them? How can they forget the founding father, their vision? Is it because of Western education? Let's continue. We will get to the point I want to make. Let's see one more video. Okay. Now, listen to this interview that went on here. Look, there's no love in the world. The world is full of pretense. People pretend, but there is no love in the world, especially when it is not from your own people. There is no love. Let's watch this video. And like I said, the reason why I took these videos and this connection, this is what is exactly happening in Black nations on the African continent as we connect the dots. There is no global village. The tax of the world is destruction by certain people.
Like, as a state, like, what do they want from the Palestinians? What do they expect? They expect to just keep the status quo, keep business going as usual, never let those people live a normal life. Like, what do they want? And why do they have so much hate? And why haven't the Israeli people, like, seen the horrors of this and rebelled?
Well, to be a leftist in Israel, it's difficult, and to be an anti-Zionist, it's even more difficult because you're rejecting your entire identity,
your religion as well as your political identity.
But look, it's a settler colonial state, just like a lot of other things in the past. But this is different because it's ongoing, and ever since the inception of Israel to today, the colonizers who colonized that land always knew that there was an indigenous Arab population that they wanted to kill or expel. And that's still the goal, like from Ben Gurion himself, the original, prime minister of Israel. I mean, he said there's so many Arabs here, we need to expel them and take their places. So it was never a land without a people and a people without a land. It was always overrun with Arabs, and they've always just wanted to expel the indigenous population so they can have an ethno-supremacist state. And that's really what it is. And that's
so. Can you be? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can you be a Muslim and live in Israel? Can you be a Muslim and live in Jerusalem?
Yeah, but there's so many discriminatory laws that basically it's an apartheid state for non-Jews.
Like in what way? Like what are the laws that?
I mean, there's so many things that people can check out, but I would really recommend the work of Miko Pilet and Ronnie Barkin. They're two anti-Zionist Israeli-born Jews who have extensively talked about this. But I mean, just in the roads, like there's settler-only roads compared to Palestinian.
Settler only.
Yeah, compared to Palestinian roads, people have different license plates. You have different ID cards.
So if you are a person
segregated schools, like just all that stuff.
So you can't go to a regular school?
No, you can, but it's so segregated and hostile, and you're so indoctrinated from an early age to basically hate these people and think of them as the other. And I encourage everyone to check out interviews that I did with just average Israelis in the streets, because the genocidal rhetoric.
So sorry that I have to go by, but to connect the dot, like I said, all right, I took this whole side of the story today to connect to Africa, right? She said something like they have been indoctrinated to hate the other people, to hate the Palestinians, to hate the people from Gaza, right? That's how even we Africans, all right, whether on the African continent or whether in the diaspora, that's how we are being indoctrinated to hate even ourselves, okay? To hate even our own culture, okay? One of the most valuable culture in the world, as I would say, is the African culture, but we hate it. We love the European culture that do not do anything for Africans, that do not even identify Africans. We love it, but we hate our own self. We hate our own culture because of the same thing she's saying in the indoctrination. At the beginning of this video, we started with a poem. Who did this to Africa? To the extent in modern Africa today, parents are refusing to teach their children their mother and father language or tongue. If you can't speak English or French or Portuguese, now Chinese, you are not brilliant. That's the kind of indoctrination we are talking about. If you can speak your mother tongue, you are not brilliant. You are stupid. Unless you speak French, Chinese, or English or Portuguese, then you are brilliant. Then you are smart. To the extent in schools are banning the teaching of African languages. But foreign languages in Africa is a course that you need to take, that you must take. You must either take French, or you must either take Portuguese, or you must either take English. But you cannot even speak your mother tongue in some school, most schools in Africa. They will beat you. They will punish you. It's a taboo in most African nations. It's a taboo to speak your mother tongue in that school. You will be punished. Indoctrination. Let's continue.
Is very apparent and it's very open. And
is
these
there a good
people
one
were
that we
talking
could
to
play
me
right now?
Sure. Yeah. Check out Abby Martin, Israelis candid interview with
Did
Israelis.
you have one opinion of that situation before you went there and then a different one after you came back?
Well, I didn't even know what Palestine was until I was 18 years old. So when people say, oh, you're only telling us one side of the story, look, I didn't know the Palestine side of the story until I was an adult, which really should say something about our education system and our media when you completely obfuscate an entire reality and are only told one side. But before I went there, I I had a conception of what it was, but once you go, you really see how much worse it is.
It says Israeli party approves annexation plan. Oh, sorry, I lost it.
Is this the yeah? So go to
coerce Palestinian departure.
Yeah, go forward like a minute or two. Go forward like 2 minutes. Yeah.
These people.
After this, keep going.
And what are you asking?
Okay, this is good too.
Okay.
So yeah, start playing here. This is the thing, and also the Stand With Us people in the Israeli lobby basically said, "Oh, you cherry pick these interviews. You only pick like genocidal people to talk to. What the hell are you talking about?" I was in Jerusalem. There's a place called Tolerance Square. It's a bustling shopping area. I spoke to people from all backgrounds, all walks of life, and I just asked them very simple questions: what is it like to live here? How do you deal with the, problems? And basically, they just were very, very readily comfortable to tell me very crazy genocidal things on camera, thinking that would actually look good for an American audience. So keep that in mind and check this out. A lot of people are sympathizing with the Palestinian plight. Can you talk about what it's like to kind of live in this situation?
First of all, it's very hard. I'm in an organization. It's called Lahava. It's against the Jews shouldn't marry Arabs.
Did you say the organization did what again?
The organization is the thing of it is that Jews shouldn't marry Arabs.
Shouldn't marry Arabs. Why do you feel strongly about that?
Because Jews is a special nation that God gave it to the Jews, and we don't want Jews to get mixed up together with a different nation.
I think Israelis have to take over, and they have to kick them away. It will be much better not to kill them, just to go back to Arab countries.
As if they didn't live there.
You can't deal with these people. There's no need to try. There's no need to talk to them. What we can do is when they do enough harm, we retaliate. That's war, and that's the situation that any Jew who lives in Israel has to deal with.
Okay.
The Arabs made their name and memory be obliterated.
It's about to get really crazy.
We have to kill terrorists. They'd be afraid to cause us any more trouble, and all will be fine. They'll be in their villages, and we'll be here. We don't have to live together, and everything will be just fine.
Every Arab that doing a terrorism attack, we have to kill him, and not because he's an Arab, because he's a terrorist. I think you should also kick out the family, because it's all begins with the chinuch. I was saying
he's wearing a Sons of Anarchy t-shirt, by the way, which is just so strange.
The kids does, it's families.
This is insane.
We need to
How do you say kick out the Arabs? Come on, tell me the words. I don't know.
She's like, I can't translate. She doesn't want to say it.
Really well.
I think we should give them a country. If you're doing any problem, you just go in there to give them a country, and then it's going to be a war between countries. If they're going to throw rockets, we're going to throw one big one and done.
I don't think there's any answer.
This is insane.
There's only one way. I would carpet bomb them.
You would carpet bomb them?
It's the only way you could deal with it. Or try to stop them a different way. It never worked.
You mean all Arabs or Gaza or?
I believe that they I hope to believe they're not, but I do think they are, because I don't trust them.
One more crazy one coming up.
And that's the only way I believe that. The only way is just to stop it completely.
I think that we're miserable. The Arabs make a piguim, and we need to kill the Arabs.
A terrorist attack.
We need to kill
the Arabs. She's laughing.
Okay.
My friend's all right, have a good day.
We'll talk about this later.
I mean, look, this is reflected in polls. A lot of people, when you look at Israeli society, you know, it started off as kind of a socialist project with the kibbutzes, and now it's just turned into a fascist, supremacist state where Netanyahu reflects the true face of Israel, just like Trump reflects the true face of this country. And when it's getting too toxic for even Natalie Portman to be this ambassador to Israel, you know that the tide is turning. But unfortunately, there's so much shit going on. Congress hasn't said anything. They just totally support this, man. And there's weird like BDS legislation trying to criminalize basically dissent, where you have contractors in Texas having to sign clauses, promise that they won't support boycott of Israel in order to rebuild hurricane homes.
What is BDS?
Boycott, divestment, sanctions. It's the movement that Palestinians have asked us to help them to, boycott. And that's what Stephen Hawking was all about. He boycotted scientific conferences in Tel Aviv. So this is what we got to do. And we have to fight our government to stop endorsing these massacres and atrocities.
Well, obviously this attitude that these people have, it's coming from a place, and they were talking about terrorist attacks. Like, how many terrorist attacks are actually happening in Jerusalem or in Israel?
If you look at the breakdown of terrorist attacks, how many are against soldiers? And that really gives you an insight. Look, these people are being occupied militarily. The occupation's illegal under international law. And resistance is a lot of times acceptable under international law when you're being illegally occupied. So if you look at
terrorist attacks against Israel,
not many. And when you look at the actual amount of people when you look at those terrorist attacks and see how many are against soldiers, like how many stabbing attacks are against soldiers, the numbers become very different.
Don't you think it's a bit different in Israel, and they're more unified because of the fact that mandatory military service exists?
Totally.
So everyone is, if soldiers are attacked, citizens are attacked, they're all the same thing. Everyone is a soldier in Israel, essentially.
Well, no, a lot of these are like armed soldiers that are
right. But I'm saying everyone identifies with that
mentality.
Because they have to do military time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the same thing with South Korea. Places that have mandatory military service, they have a totally different idea and concept of.
Okay, as we transition to Africa, right now, you heard the last video, and the lady speaking there, she was in Asia, right? You heard her. I mean, her whole life, she know the whole story almost about the Palestinian people, right? Because she lived there, or she did research and whatsoever, all of those things, right? So she is not the kind of person that just have that Western mentality idea, right? Like CNN, BBC, or the colonial mentality or the West mentality, just one side of the story. So she went and understand, and she was able to understand both sides of the story, right? So she have it. Now, you heard in there when she said her government, the United States government, they do not care what goes on there. All right. Now, you saw in the video, everyone she interviewed. First of all, that's why you see the black Jew, as I will call it, but a Jew, so people can understand, right? But the African Jew in Israel. Have you not seen every day they are being harassed by the Israelis? That alone should tell you. You heard what those people said in there. We need to kill them. We need to bomb them. We need to take them out of the people, their own land. But they are saying we need to get them out. We need to kill them, bomb them, destroy them, every horrible things. We should get them out of this land. Now, those were just common people on the street. But just like those people, that's how their leaders act and think. Do you think those people care for Africans? The continent, a continent that is 1,000 miles away from Europe and America, from Asia. Do you think those people care for the life of African when you are dying and killing one another? Do you think? I can tell you just how they said in our video. That's how exactly they have said numerous times, many times. about people in DRC Congo who are dying every day and calling the UN and calling the world to come to their aid. That's how they and their leader, the West, have said, let those Negro, let those Africans die because we want their land, we want their resources. The same way they in our video that the lady interview and their leaders, the Western leaders, who are supporting the torture, the killing, the destruction of Gaza and Palestine. That's how they support the destruction, the killing of Africans on the African continent because of the African land, because of the resources. They do not support stability in Africa, and they do not support self-determination for Africans because they want the African continent. If you have not yet gotten the message, you so-called African leaders, you so-called African representatives, you so-called Africans, how they call it, or globalists, if you have not yet gotten the message, I am sorry for you. We will not get there. Let's continue here. Now, let's go to an article. All right? The dots have been connected, right? Let's go to an article by the United States government, by Blinken, the man to whom one of our great nation in Africa leader. I am not calling Nana Akufo-Addo a great leader. I am saying one of our great nation in Africa that is being heard by a puppet, Nana Akufo-Addo, the man to whom Akufo-Addo came to, a president came to a non-entity, a president came to one of the least men. You are a president, but you came to a secretary. Do you think Joe Biden will leave America, a president for America, go to Ghana, do not meet Nana Akufo-Addo, do not meet the president, but go and meet the secretary for Ghana to discuss about U.S. interest, not with Nana Akufo-Addo, but a secretary will go and meet a secretary. I can tell you, Joe Biden cannot even meet a representative. That alone, a secretary. Joe Biden will not meet a senator. That alone, a secretary. But our African leaders can bring themselves down, came here, and went and met a secretary, a secretariat, to tell him about Africa and Africa's solution, a whole continent. You took a continent problem and brought it to a secretary. Can Joe Biden leave from here? For a typical example, when Kamala Harris went to Ghana, the vice president, did she meet the secretary? Or she met you, the president? Did she meet any representative or senator? Or did she meet the head of the nation? That's how a colony behaves. That's how a territory behaves. That's how a puppet government behaves. That's how a governor, you are not a president. Some of you are not president in Africa. Some of you are governors representing your commonwealth. But let's see what Blinken said. You think these people care for the life of Africans? They are still fighting to bring Niger down. Let's see Blinken here. Now, I do not blame the United States Congress. To be frank, I do not blame Blinken. I blame ECOWAS. I blame the African leaders. I blame Nana Akufo-Addo. I blame Macky Sall. I blame the Benin president, the Ivorian president. I blame those people. Look, America is fighting for her interests. Why should I blame America if America take any decision against any African nation or the African continent? Why should I blame America? America is fighting for her interests. I will blame Africa because what is Africa's interest? I will blame Nana Akufo-Addo because what is Nana Akufo-Addo interest for Africa? What is Tinubu interest for Africa? Macky Sall, what is his interest? What are your interests for Africa? I do not blame Blinken or whatsoever decision United States made or Congress made. I do not blame them. That's how these people have been surviving. It's about them. The people made it clear. Their foreign policy is not about that country. Their foreign policy in that country is about American influence. It's about Washington, D.C. influence and control over that country. It's not about your people or it's not about you. So I don't blame them. Hey, I do not blame these people. I blame the people who continue to be slaves to these people. I blame the slave, the horse Negro. I blame them. I do not blame Blinken. I do not blame Joe Biden. I do not blame the United States Congress. I blame the AU. I blame the ECOWAS. I do not blame Europe. I do not blame EU. I do not. They are fighting for their interests. Why should I be angry if they fight for their interests? Why should I be mad if they fight for their interests? What is our interest as African? Who are the people representing? Because these people are representing their country. So they have to fight for the interests of their country to survive. To stay where their country is or where their country are. To stay on top. To be superpower. They are fighting for their country, for their interests. Why should I be mad? I am not mad with them. I am mad on the African leaders who think they can be superpower too. Who think their resources is not good for Africans. It's good for America and Europe. Those are the people I am mad with. I am not mad with any decision or whatever statement Blake come with. I may react to it, but I am not mad with them. Who does not want to fight for their interest? Blinken called the post-Niger leader ahead of expected U.S. declaration that his overthrow was a coup. I do not blame these people. Any description they gave, because some of our African leaders agree to the Western narrative. They agree to be puppet. ECOWAS agreed to the extent ECOWAS decided to go and kill Nigerians, to go and kill Africans if Africans have not stood up. But now, Niger could have been upside down because of the stupidity of ECOWAS and AU. If Africa had not stood up, Niger could have been upside down. And not only Niger, because Niger could have been down, and that's how Burkina Faso were going to go down, Mali down, Guinea down. The nation in the Sahel region could have been down. That's how the West operate. That's how the colonial they operate. They fight to take out the most powerful nation or leader. The most influential leader, they try to kill you and take you down, and then the rest of the follower will fall because nobody want to go. That's how they killed Gaddafi. And everybody drew back. I do not blame these people. I blame the African leaders. These people, from time to time, from slavery, from colonization, they have fought for their interests. If their interests meant to destroy, they will. They have the history of destruction. Name me one time in history where the West ever had a peaceful dialogue of mutual agreement. That is their history of destruction to survive, destruction to succeed. That's their history. There is no time in history that the West ever went with peaceful dialogue, with friendship, with globalism. No time in history. So why should I be angry with them when I know their history? When I know what they stand for, why should I be angry? I am angry of the continual dumbness of some of our African leaders. This is what Washington, D.C. said. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken called Niger deposed President Mohamed Bazoum ahead of an expected decision by the Biden administration to formally declare that this overthrow was a coup d'etat. But Mr. Blinken, who gave you the audacity to say, to decide for African that this was a coup d'etat? Why can't you go to Gabon and say it was a coup d'etat? Oh, because we understand Gabon was not a coup d'etat, but a planned overthrow of a government to make it seem, because government have been in power for a century. And then you went and handpicked the same family and make it look like coup d'etat. Why can't you talk about Gabon? But let's continue here. The State Department said Blinken called Bazoum on Monday. They are still communicating with an outcast government. You believe in democracy, but the people have spoken massively. They do not want a government that rules a country that is one of the richest nations in the world, but the second poorest in the world. A government that invests the nation resources to Europe and America for them to live better life. But the people in Niger are living in abject poverty. And you call that government a democracy, and you are still communicating with that government. The State Department said Blinken called Bazoum on Monday to stress that a restoration of a free, enlightened government remains the best way for Niger to not only succeed for its people, but also to remain a key partner of the U.S. and other in countering extremism. But guess what, Blinken? You cannot. Washington, D.C. cannot decide. You did it in the past, maybe, but now you cannot decide for any African nations. The Nigerians came out massively and filled our stadiums. And they said they do not want Bazoum. And the reality, what you guys fail to understand is, we have come to understand that any nation or any president in any black nation that is being supported by Europe and America, the colonial, the colonizer, that person is a betrayer. That person is a dictator. That person is not a leader for the people. We have come to understand. And anybody America try to press, we will remove that person. That person, we will have to do intensive research to find out the meaning of that praise. Because we know America, Europe, you never praise anybody without something behind that praise. Why didn't you praise Nkrumah? But you want Nkrumah out. Why didn't you press Amilcar Cabral? But you wanted Amilcar Cabral out. You wanted Jomo Kenyatta out. You wanted Gideon Nyeri out. You wanted Thomas Sankara out. You wanted Patrick Lumumba out. You wanted Robert Mugabe out. You wanted Muammar Gaddafi out. All these are leaders that wanted to work for the progress, the betterment, the improvement, the liberation, the self-determination of Africa. But you killed them. You took them out. And yet, come and praise a government that is not in the interest of the people and you call it a democracy. If you don't take to America, you will become an outcast in Africa. Don't get it twisted. Let's continue here. In the call, Blinken reiterated that a democratically elected, and this is what I don't even want to hear, a democratically elected civilian-led government presents the best opportunity. What was the opportunity that, first of all, let me make this clear. Democracy does not intend a better government for the people as long that government is not answerable to the people. But if that government is answerable to Europe and America, that is not a democracy that will be productive. And we will not define that as a democracy. Because Bazoo was not in the interest of the people, so it was not a democracy. You cannot define democracy for us. Civilian-led government present the best opportunity to ensure what kind of civilian-led government that have ensured democracy in Africa without your influence. You do not support democratic-led government in Africa. You have never. Why did you care Patrick Lumumba? Why did you care Thomas Sankara? Why did you want Kwame Nkrumah out? Why did you want Gaddafi out? Why did you want Amilcar Cabral out? Why did you want these people out? They were civilian government. As far as we are concerned, they were 100% for their people. And if a government is for his or her people 100%, that government is a civilian government. But you have never supported a civilian government on the African continent. But they say here, the best government for Niger is civilian-led government present or present the best opportunity to ensure that Niger remain a strong partner in security and development in the region. What kind of development? Say you, colonizer, have been on the African continent since 1884 when you divided Africa. Since 1884, what kind of development France did in Niger that we can talk about? Aren't you ashamed of yourself? Aren't you ashamed of this statement? Aren't you ashamed of such article? What kind of development France have done in Niger since 1884, the Berlin Conference? When you divided Africa among your so-called nation, hateful people, what kind of development France was able to do in Niger? When you talk about development, But we can count. We can count. In fact, we cannot count. We are unable to count the numerous achievements France have done, or let's say Niger have done in France. The numerous achievements Niger have done in France, but France looting the people resources. That's an achievement. You looted the people resources and build your country, build your economy, build your capital, build your nation, build your banks, build your hospital. I mean, build your system. Now, when the Nigerians are saying they no longer want you, your system began to collapse. What kind of development have France done? Oh, even you, US, what kind of development have you done there? But build 110 million drones in Niger to have a base, to control the plane, to take the people land, but you cannot fight and defeat terrorists. You have never fought terrorists. Why on the African continent? You call yourself African, you lie to African leaders to go there and say, we are coming to help you fight terrorists, to train your army. But the underground deeds are going on. How can you be on the African continent to fight with African army to defeat terrorists, but you were the same people that supported insurgency, gave army ammunition, and you call them modeling rebel, and they kill Gaddafi and destroy Libya? Terrorists, you call terrorists modeling rebel. And you say you are on the African continent to fight terrorists. And after they kill Gaddafi, they destroy Libya. Now they're modeling terrorists. You did not call them modeling again. You call them terrorists. How can the same people you describe as modeling, now they become terrorists? The same people you get their army ammunition, you train. After they have succeeded, then now you call them terrorists. We are not taking it. We are not angry with you. We are angry with the African leaders who are continually making dumb, stupid decisions. We are not angry because this is how you survive. That's how you do it. That's your policy. That's how you do it to survive. So we are not angry. We are just bringing out the L and exposing you. Even though we are not angry, that doesn't mean we cannot expose you. We are angry with our African leaders. This is what you do to survive. We are not angry. That's your interest. That's what you do. Well, what are the African leaders doing? That's our point. Before I even continue with that, let me play a video here. I will take this out here. Let me play a video here. Okay? Let me play a video here. Okay? To show to you. Okay? That we Africans are at fault. We are at fault. We are at fault. We African, we are at fault for any treatment we receive from America or from the West. We African are at fault. Let's listen to the little queen speaking.
Admit that most of my African solutions come from abroad. I am embarrassed to admit that I gave a white man the audacity to disrespect me as a Black person. I am embarrassed to admit that most of my problems and my solutions are funded by a white man. I am embarrassed to admit to the fact that I, as an African, give a white man the audacity to disrespect me. Because how does a mere employee of IMF or World Bank have the power to advise the president? Because they fund us. That's why. Forget about the Minister of Finance. A person who is driven by commission and interest advising you. I am embarrassed as an African when I see my presidents of Africa spending so much money to just go beg overseas. Most of the projects which are funded by these organizations are questionable. In my country, Botswana, there's a project called Meteatsiye in Swapo. It's functional only when USAID or any other organization puts money in it. As long as they don't inject money in it, it's not working. Creating a dependence, creating that dependence between Metsi and USAID or whatever organization that is willing to give the money. As long as African solutions come from abroad, we will always depend on them. As long as we wait for them to bring us a solution, we will always pay them. We will always pay interest to these big loans. We give them the audacity to disrespect us. I am embarrassed as an African to admit that most of my African solutions come from abroad. I am embarrassed to admit that I gave a white man the audacity to disrespect me as a Black person. I am embarrassed to admit that most of my problems and my solutions are funded by a white man. I am embarrassed to admit to the fact that I, as an African, give a white man the audacity to disrespect me. Because how does a mere employee of IMF or World Bank have the power to advise the president? Because they fund us. That's why.
Okay, we can continue with that article, right? I am completely embarrassed by the actions of our leaders. I am embarrassed as an African. Let's continue with that article. Now, the United States call for the immediate, I am embarrassed for this. The United States call for the immediate. Who gave you the audacity? Who will give African the audacity to call or to tell America, the African continent, call for the immediate release of Donald Trump from the court? How can any African nation in Africa, you Nana Akufo-Addo, you Tinubu, Macky Sall, Africa, Niger, or how they call it, Benin, can any of you call for the immediate release of Donald Trump from the American court system? Can any of you call for the immediate release, freedom, democratic freedom for Donald Trump to exercise his presidential right or his presidential candidate to go and run if he win? Can any of you do it? I dare you to ever try to get any such statement. You know why you can't do it? Because you are a puppet leader. You are a slave. The United States call for the immediate release of all those unjustly. Oh, so the United States have justified. The United States have gone to court and proved those people innocent because they were money and dining and giving all our resources to Europe and America. So America is now calling on them. So America said it's unjust. Who will call the United States Department of Justice and say it is unjust for Donald Trump to be in court? Who will do that? Who will do that? But America said she called for the immediate release of all those unjustly detained following the military takeover. America, it is unjust to detain all those who went to the Capitol building. But today, you are catching those people one by one and putting them to prison. Can we say it is unjust? Can we say it was a democratic right to be at that Capitol building? Oh, yes. If you can decide, then we can decide too. It was their right to be at that Capitol building, right? So leave them. Why are you going after them? Now, folks, There is a reason America came out with this article, and I'm going to give you that reason. Okay? I am going to give you that reason why Washington, D.C. came out with this article for Blinken to come and stand and open his mouth because he is the superior. When he speak, his slave will listen to him. Blinken call came as the Democratic administration is preparing to make a formal determination that Judah military takeover in a Central African nation meet the legal standard for a coup. My God. So America defined, the West defined the legal standard for coup. So I see. So they have defined the legal standard for the coup that happened in Gabon because they planned it to make it seem as a coup in order to put another government in power, because that government that was there, Bongo, was already being hated by the people. So if he was going to go back, it was going to cause chaos. And their interest in our nation was going to be at stake. So they make it look like a coup. So they determine what a coup is and what a coup is not. So the one that happened in Gabon, it was not a military takeover, it was a coup. So they defined it. But the one happened in Niger, it was not a coup, but it was a military takeover, right? Look at the audacity. That did not stop there, right? Let's read here. Blinken call came as the Democratic administration is preparing to make a formal determination that Judah military takeover in a Central African nation meet the legality standard of a coup. According to official familiar with the matter, that determination could not come as early as Tuesday. The official said, the official spoke on the condition of anonymity because an announcement has not yet been made. Now, look at the audacity of the West. That is what that queen said, I am embarrassed. I am embarrassed because Africa as a whole is still a continent. It's still colonized. Africa is not free. I am embarrassed for the United States Constitution to be used to determine what is supposed to be done in Africa. I am embarrassed. Under U.S. law, a formal determination of a coup, the unconstitutional overthrow of a democratically elected government. That is under U.S. Constitution. This is not in Africa. This is not in any African nation. But this is the U.S. Constitution. So they are quoting the U.S. Constitution for Africa. Oh God. Africa. Like I said, I do not blame the DC. I mean, what America do, I do not blame them. That's how they survive. That's how they are succeeded. I blame our African leaders. You are using the United States Constitution to justify the suffering, the looting, the torture of Africans, the humiliation of Africans. You are using the United States Constitution to justify what goes on in Africa. That is why there is no justice in America here. The unconstitutional overthrow under U.S. law, a formal determination of a coup, the unconstitutional overthrow of a democratically elected. Who was democratically elected? Did the United States elect Bazoum? Did American citizens elect Bazoum? Or Nigerian elected Bazoo? Did American elect Bazoo or African elected Bazoo? If U.S. citizen elected Bazoo, then America, you have the right to speak any nonsense. But if Africans elected Bazoo, you do not have the right to speak nonsense and to determine for African people. Let the African people determine, let them speak their own nonsense. If Africans want to speak, let them speak their own nonsense. Not U.S. speaking nonsense for African. Let Nigerian speak their own nonsense for themselves. You are not God. You will never God. You will never be a God. Nonsense. The unconstitutional overthrow of democratically elected government typically result in a suspension of all non-humanitarian assistance, like the Queen said in a video. We are the cause because we feel we cannot do it on our own. We feel our resources is not enough for us. But meanwhile, Europe and America depend on our resources. But yet then we feel our resources is not enough. We feel that the only way things will be fun for us, Europe and America should come and exploit our resources, take it to Europe and America, and then bring crumbs as aid, as humanitarian assistance. Can't you African become a humanitarian assistant to America, to Europe? Yes, you can't. Yes, you can. You know how you can? Support Abraham Traore, support Burkina Faso, support Niger, support Mali, support Guinea, support the unification of Africa and the African continent, and we will become a humanitarian to America. They will be our country without Africa. Yes, we want to be humanitarian too. We want to be humanitarian. We want to have an immigration system as well, where Europe, where people will be leaving from the West, going to Africa, where we will have to deny them and accept them. We want to do that too. Yes, we can. But I take this out. Let me tell you the reason why they brought this article. Okay? The reason why Blinken spoke about this article. Let me tell you the reason why. Let me tell you the reason why. Let me pull it out here. These people out, they know what they are doing. They are working. They are working together. But we Africans, we are not working. Now, do you know where the how they call it article came out about Blinken? This article we just read. It came out after Niger have ordered top UN official to leave because the United States control UN. Now it will give them the edge to work along with UN because these are two forces going against already. Because with the presence of UN in Niger, right, America could not, because with the presence of UN in Niger, US was still present, Europe was still present. But it's just that their presence or interest in that part of Africa were at stake. But the moment Niger said UN should leave, United States said no. Then it have come to a point. We have to do something. So now, America is going to take different approach. Okay? So America now want to take Niger to the UN. Look at this audacity. America, aren't you ashamed of yourself? You call yourself a first world, a superpower. A nation like Niger, third world country, as you say. Second poorest country in the world, as you say. Now, the same country said, leave and go. And you do not want to do it. Now you want to take this country to the United Nations. Do you see the game that is being played? Now, UN is already angry. Niger is throwing her out. Now, how do you call it? The United States take Niger to UN, what do you think going to happen? What do you think going to happen? It's like the judge. The UN is the judge. Okay? Niger said, we do not want the judge. The judge should leave. And then America take Niger and take Niger to the judge. Who do you think the case is going to be in their favor? This is how these people are fighting. Like I said, with the connection of the Palestine and Gaza, they do not care about those people. They will not care about Africans. If they care for the life of Africans, and America surely want to work with Africans, she will go on a diplomatic way to sit with the authority of Niger or the authority in the Chadian nation to work with them. But how can you have such disgruntled attitude? And then when the people turn to North Korea or Russia, and then you say the people hate you, they hate your enemies, it is because of your attitude. Now, she want to take Niger to the UN. And what is going to happen? Let's read here. Niger junta has damaged or has demanded that the top United Nations official there in Niger leave the country within 72 hours over accusation that Niger was excluded from the annual UN, the just past UN conference, from the annual UN gathering of world leaders in New York last month. The United Nations, the nation that we say is all for peace, the nation that we say is not a buyer. I mean, the organization that we say is not a buyer. Why didn't the UN allow Niger to go in to get her side of the story? Is there something the UN is hiding? Is there something UN is hiding that America have done in Niger or France? Is there something UN was hiding and trying to protect these people that they denied Niger from going to speak? Because Niger was going to speak on what is going on and what has been going on. Is there something they were hiding? Let's continue here. Niger military official, Niger government official, I'm not going to say military, Niger government official ousted President Mohamed Bazoum in Judah, suspending the constitution, dissolving all formal institutions, and declaring General Adoumar Hama as the West African country new head of state, Niger. In a statement dated October 10th, Niger foreign minister accused the UN of using unhindered maneuver instigated by France to prevent its full participation in the high-level UN General Assembly meeting last month. The government has ordered UN resident coordinator Louise Abin to leave, said the statement. Now, like I said, was there something that France was hiding? Why did you deny the people to come to the United Nations? I thought you were an organization that is free from biases. Why didn't you allow Niger to come and speak their side of the story? But you wouldn't listen to France's side. You allowed France to partake in our meeting, but you did not allow Niger to partake in our meeting. We were waiting for Niger to come and speak the side of our story. The war waited for Niger, but you denied Niger. Now that you see how these people are working together, behind a so-called biased organization called UN. Now, after Niger did this to retaliate against UN for denying them to come to the UN General Assembly to voice out their side of the story, they decided that, okay, UN, you top official got to go. When that happened, then now it gave a loophole for the United States Congress for Blinken to come and open his mouth to say they have decided, but they have not yet come up with an official date to go against Niger. So what they are trying to do, I can tell you, their plan is to take Niger, because they cannot go with their merit to go fight Niger. They will not do that. That will be invasion. So they have to come up with another thing. They might do it in the future, but they are trying hard. So their plan, I can tell you, their plan, I can tell you, their plan is to take Niger. Because obviously, if they take Niger to the UN, they find that Niger have decided to throw out UN from the country. UN going to retaliate against Niger because of grudges she have against Niger. So their plan is to strong on Niger. Their plan is to step on the neck of Niger. They do not care. They never care, and they will never care about African lives. Like I said, I do not blame these people. I blame the African leaders who do not want to work with revolutionary African leaders, but who continually want to be puppets to Europe and America for the suffering of Africans. I blame them. I do not blame America. Look, America can take Niger to anywhere in the world. I do not blame them. That's how they survive. I blame the African leaders who do not want to unite. And I even blame ordinary Africans. Even what I'm saying here, some ordinary buffon African will go against me. Some ordinary stupid-minded Africans will not listen to this. They will not understand. I blame the disunification of Africans. I blame African leaders who do not think that they are leaders, who do not function as a leader to represent our continent and its people. I blame them. What America is doing, America is representing the interests of the few Americans that she identifies as American. I know she do not represent everybody, but I know what I'm saying, but I will keep it just like that. So what she's doing, she's right. I do not blame Europe from what they do against Africans. I do not blame them. That's how they survive. They are doing things to survive because they have limited resources or they have none. So what they can do to survive, that's what they are doing. And we, Africans, are sitting there agreeing to them. But then tomorrow, we will come and say, Europe and America enslaved Africans. Aren't we there yet? Why are we still dumb? And then tomorrow, we will come and say, Europe and America colonized Africa. We will come and say, oh, they have 1884 Berlin Conference, or in the 1600, they put people on a ship, and they call the ship Jesus, and then they came, they sing Jesus, they came, they preach Christianity to us. We will still say all those things. But yet, then stay. We still do the past. We blame ourselves. We end here. I'll play the last video just for entertainment, and then we go. Let's listen to Nelson Mandela a bit. It's an old video, so let's just listen to it.
One of the mistakes which some political analysts make is to think that their enemies should be our enemies. our attitude towards any country is determined by the attitude of that country to our struggle. Yasser Arafat, Colonel Gaddafi, Fidel Castro support our struggle to the hilt. They do not support it only in rhetoric. They are placing resources at our disposal for us to win the struggle. That is the position.
Mr. Mandela, as I mentioned to you before the program, we also have some distinguished guests sitting behind us, one of whom, Mr. Henry Sigmund, together with two other Jewish leaders, came to Geneva to visit with you precisely because they were so concerned not only by the kind of thing that you just said before the break with regard to Yasser Arafat, with regard to Libya's Colonel Gaddafi, but also because of the support that you seemed at different times to give to the PLO. I would like to ask Mr. Sigmund to stand now for a moment and pose whatever question he would like directly to you. Mr. Sigmund?
I think I would be dishonest if I did not express profound disappointment with the answer that Mr. Mandela gave to the previous question, because it suggests a certain degree of amorality.
As far as Yasser Arafat is concerned, I explained to Mr. Sigmund that we identify with the PLO because just like ourselves, they are fighting for the right of self-determination.
Mr. Mandela, we have ripped through the first part of this broadcast extraordinarily quickly. There are still a number of issues that we have to take up with Mr. Mandela, not the least of them being sanctions by the United States against South Africa. We will continue with that in the Nightline segment of this broadcast. Just a quick break now. We'll be back. And we are back once again at the City College of New York with Nelson Mandela. And Mr. Mandela, we have just heard a number of the things that you said in our hour between 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock this evening. Some controversial things, not the kinds of things necessarily that a very political man says. If you were very political, you might have been more concerned about not alienating some people in this country who have it within their hands, within their power, either to continue sanctions against South Africa or to raise those sanctions, to lift them. Why were you not a little more political? Perhaps we're too accustomed to politicians in this country.
I do not understand what you mean. Perhaps if you clarify what you are referring to, I may be in a position to comment.
What I'm saying is that in this country, for example, there has been for many years a close alliance between the Jewish population and the black population in the civil rights struggle. There is likely to be a rather negative reaction to some of the things that you have said. That reaction could very well cause people to call up their congressmen, their senators, and say, go ahead, lift the sanctions. Why not? After all, President de Klerk is doing a great deal against apartheid. Only today, in fact, his number two man, Gerrit Viljoen, said that the government perceives itself in South Africa as being part of the anti-apartheid struggle.
As far as the Jewish question to begin with, I have had discussions at my own initiative with prominent Jewish leaders to straighten out this affair. Amongst the people I saw was Mrs. Helen Suzman, who has been an MP in our country for more than 30 years. There was Mr. Masons, who has been a judge in Lesotho, Botswana, and the old Rhodesia. There was the chief rabbi of Johannesburg. There was Professor Katz from the University of Witwatersrand, and an eminent community leader in South Africa. We discussed this question and all misunderstanding was clear. The question of Yasser Arafat and the PLO. I have also discussed the question with the Jewish leaders in the USA and very top people like Mr. Sigmund. We reached an agreement on this question and we saw eye to eye. Now, I don't know where your concern arises. The Jewish leaders themselves are able to determine their own affairs. Nobody else is entitled to say that the Jewish leaders are going to be concerned about your stand. Because I have had the discussions with them, and those discussions will reach consensus. But there are matters, of course, which we did not agree. But the position which we take as the ANC, I thought we were able to explain it in such a way that it removed the concern of the Jewish community.
Let's broaden it
I
out.
am still prepared to do that even in this talk. If the Jewish leader have any doubts about our stand, I am prepared to address them and to allay their concern, because they are a very important community both in South Africa and of course in the States. And I'm prepared to iron out any differences that might exist, but they must know what our stand is. Arafat is a comrade in arms, and we treat him as such. We have many Jews.
All right, folks, that is today's presentation. I will see you guys Friday, and then this coming Friday. No, not Friday, Saturday, and I will see you guys for the Sunday show. So that was the presentation for today. Hopefully you love it, and hopefully you share it. Hopefully you subscribe as you listen to it. And whosoever that come across this video, this is WCC. This is our platform. Our platform. We ask you to subscribe so that anytime we go live, you will be able to see what this is. One of the platforms where you can come and grow, where you can come and unite, where you can come and know what is happening around the world when it comes to African people. We are here to dismantle, just how Obama said, he and his colonizer are praying to dismantle Israel and let's say Gaza and Palestine. And that's how Obama and his colonizer went and dismantled Libya and killed Gaddafi and killed Libyan and destroyed Libya. Today, Libya is a no-go zone today. Libya is one of the most poorer, I can say the first poorer or the second poorest country in the world. Okay, with the presence of American democracy. All right. So in the same manner, we are fighting to dismantle colonialism, neo-colonialism, and imperialism. Whatsoever imperialism operates, we are there to dismantle it, because imperialism is toxic, is a disease. Okay, racist people that operate on an imperialist agenda, even capitalism, European capitalism, we are there to destroy it. All right. So if you come across this video, it's something that you need to subscribe to so that you cannot be indoctrinated. You cannot hate yourself. I don't think anybody will watch channel like this and then hate yourself. You will never. We are there to educate our people not to hate themselves. If they are to hate anybody, they should rather hate their enemies than to pray for their enemies and then pray against their own success. That we will not do. We will pray against our enemies. as we fight or pray for ourselves and our success. We are not praying for our enemies. We are not turning our left or right cheeks for our enemy to slap it. We are not going with that doctrine of Dr. King. I'm sorry. Go and pray. Go and come back. Go and fast. No, we are not fasting for our enemies. That we are not doing it. We might have done that in the past, but this present, it will not. Peace.